One sentence can save a life. And just one sentence can leave a wound that never truly heals. I once met an elderly woman on a slow train heading south. She told me that for over 30 years she had never forgotten something her husband said during a heated argument. He didn't hit her, but those words shattered her heart. He apologized, she said, but no apology can ever glue back a broken spirit. Have you ever said something and later wished you had stayed silent? Or maybe heard something that kept you awake for days? In today's video, we'll explore 4 types of speech that seem harmless on the surface, but silently tear apart our relationships, our inner peace, and even our karma. These were teachings the Buddha gave more than 2,500 years ago, and they remain profoundly relevant today. But this isn't just a warning. I'll also share how to transform your words into healing energy for yourself and for those around you. So let's begin with a simple question. Are your words building your world or breaking it down? Have you ever noticed how some words spoken years ago still echo in your mind? A well-timed compliment can turn around a terrible day. A cruel remark can haunt someone for life. Words, though just tiny vibrations in the air, carry unimaginable power. In Buddhism, speech isn't just communication, it's karma in action. Every word we speak carries intention, and intention creates karma. Good or bad, it all begins in the mind. I remember a 12-year-old boy standing quietly after a Buddhist Vesak ceremony. His mother, upset that he had dropped a tray of food, snapped at him in front of everyone. "You're nothing but an embarrassment. I wish I'd never given birth to you." The boy said nothing, but his eyes, they looked like a soul had just cracked open. In modern psychology, researchers call this an emotional imprint, a deep scar in the brain that affects self-worth, behavior, and the way we love later in life. The small lesson here is, words don't simply pass, they remain. Every sentence you speak, to your child, your partner, or even to yourself, becomes a thread in the fabric of the future you're creating. That's why the Buddha didn't just say, "Don't lie." He taught right speech. Words that are true, beneficial, timely, and filled with kindness. Words are like knives. You can use them to prepare a meal or to wound someone. The choice is yours. And once you understand the power of speech, you'll never take even a casual sentence lightly again. Now let's dive into the first unwholesome speech, one that nearly all of us fall into at some point: lying. It's just a little white lie. What's the harm? It sounds harmless, doesn't it? But is it really? In the Buddhist teachings, every act of dishonesty, no matter how small, creates karma. Not just because it hurts others, but because it breaks the most sacred connection in life: trust. When you lie, you're not only deceiving others, you're also slowly deceiving yourself. I once knew a man who lied to avoid conflict. He hid his financial problems from his wife, saying everything's fine, while drowning in debt. He lied to his boss to dodge responsibility, lied to friends to keep up appearances. At first he told himself, as long as no one knows, it's okay. But over time, he no longer recognized who he was. His self-worth crumbled. Relationships fell apart, not because the truth came out, but because trust quietly died one lie at a time. In Buddhism, refraining from lying is one of the 5 precepts. Not to restrict you, but to protect you from losing yourself. The small lesson here is, lying isn't just layering a mask. It's cutting yourself off from reality, and with it, your peace of mind. A person who lives dishonestly can never truly be happy, because you can only be truly loved when someone knows who you really are. And often, people don't lie to hurt others. They lie out of fear, out of not feeling enough. But that's when we need to pause and ask, what am I hiding from, and why am I afraid to face it? We live in a world where honesty can feel like a weakness. But to the Buddha, honesty is the greatest strength of the awakened mind. So if there's something you haven't been honest about, The first step toward freedom isn't changing the world. It's simply telling the truth just once and meeting yourself with compassion. And when you choose honesty, you'll discover that something even more dangerous than lying is coming next: divisive speech. There's something that can break entire communities apart, destroy the deepest of friendships, and it doesn't even need a shout, just a whisper. Divisive speech, gossip, backbiting, whispering behind someone's back, words that seem harmless, but slowly erode the trust that binds people together. I once saw a tight-knit friend group fall apart because of one careless comment. One person shared a private story about another, just for fun. But when it got back to the person involved, everything changed. Not because the story was true, but because of the betrayal. In the Buddhist teachings, divisive speech is one of the most serious forms of unwholesome speech, because it doesn't just hurt, it separates. Today we don't just speak, we text, post, share. A single tweet or comment can ignite a chain reaction of conflict. The small lesson here is, if your words cause others to stop trusting each other, then even if you didn't mean harm, you're still planting the seeds of division. The root of divisive speech often isn't malice. It's a lack of mindfulness. We speak to feel important, out of jealousy or simply because we don't know when to be silent. But the Buddha was clear. If what you're about to say isn't useful, then noble silence is the better path. We don't need to have something to say all the time. Sometimes, mindful silence is the deepest form of compassion. And when we stop planting division with our words, we begin to learn the language of healing. So let's move to the next kind of speech, one that almost everyone has felt the sting of: harsh words. I'm just being honest. But sometimes, honesty feels more like a knife than a truth. We've all been hurt by words. They don't have to be curse words. Sometimes it's a single comment, a dismissive look, a careless remark, and it stings. I remember as a child proudly showing my drawing to an adult I looked up to. They barely glanced at it and said, "That's ugly. Do it again." I didn't cry. I just put the drawing in a drawer. And from that day on, I never drew again. Harsh speech isn't just about harsh words. Sometimes, it's the absence of compassion in how we respond. In Buddhism, harsh speech doesn't just hurt the listener. It also burns the speaker from within. It's born out of anger, frustration, or ego, and like a small flame, it can grow into a wildfire that destroys peace both inside and out. The small lesson here is, not everything that is true needs to be said immediately, and not every honest opinion is helpful if it lacks kindness and respect. We can speak the truth, but let's speak it like planting a seed, not like throwing a stone, because every word we speak plants an emotion in someone's heart, and we too must live in that emotional garden. And often people speak harshly to others, because they're still speaking from their own pain. If we're mindful enough, we can pause and choose our words like choosing a flower instead of a thorn. So next time you feel like reacting, ask yourself, will what I'm about to say make the world better? And if the answer is no, choose silence. Silence can be a form of love too. Now we come to the final type of speech, the one that seems harmless, but silently drains our awareness day after day: idle chatter. Ever had a day where you talked a lot, but felt strangely empty by the end? Like you used up all your energy but said nothing that truly mattered? That's idle chatter, as the Buddha called it. Now, not all small talk is bad. The Buddha didn't tell us to become silent statues, but he did remind us, if your words don't bring benefit, no matter how gentle, they are still a waste of the mind. Idle chatter is when we speak just to fill the space, to escape silence, to feel like we're saying something. It shows up as endless gossip, repetitive complaints, or trivia that helps no one grow. I once knew someone who talked nonstop whenever friends were around. But afterward, he always felt drained, restless, even anxious. Because deep down he knew he spoke too much but said nothing real. The small lesson here is, speech isn't just meant to be released. Speech should connect, guide, or heal. If not, we turn our words into noise and our minds into chaos. In Buddhism, silence isn't a lack of communication. It's a form of wisdom. When we know when to speak and when to stop, we are practicing mindfulness in speech. You don't have to speak less to be wise, but you do need to be conscious of every word you choose. Does this add value? Is it necessary right now? Is it coming from kindness? Because in the end, the quality of our lives isn't measured by how much we talk, but by the depth of what we say. And if you've stayed with me this far, you may have realized something. Right speech isn't just a practice, it's a path. Now let's wrap it all up. Let's revisit the 4 types of unwholesome speech and discover how we can walk the path of right speech in our daily lives. There's a kind of weapon that isn't made of steel, doesn't pierce the skin, but cuts far deeper than any blade. It's our words. Throughout this video, we've explored the 4 unwholesome types of speech the Buddha taught us to avoid. Lying, divisive speech, harsh words, and idle chatter. And did you notice something they all share? They all begin with a lack of mindfulness. Speech is just the surface. What truly matters is the intention behind the words. Are we speaking to connect, or to control? To love, or to lash out? To lift others up, or to pull them down to feel taller ourselves? I once met an old monk in the mountains. He said something I'll never forget. Speech is a double-edged sword, but if you use it wisely, it becomes a bowl. A bowl that holds light and offers it to those still in the dark. The small lesson here is, you don't have to be a monk to speak kindly. You just need to pause for 1 second before speaking and ask yourself 3 things. Is it true? Is it kind? Is it necessary? If the answer is yes to all 3, then speak. And speak from a mindful heart. Because words create karma. And karma is a seed. What you plant today, you'll harvest in your relationships, your emotions, and your life. So if you've ever hurt someone with your words, forgive yourself. And if you want to heal someone, begin with your voice. One voice can brighten a day. One kind word can shape a life. And one mindful person can shift the world. Thank you for walking this journey with me. If something here touched your heart, share it with someone you care about. I'll see you in the next video where we continue learning to live slower, deeper, and more awake.